Everybody, welcome back to Into the Odd with the Gauntlet. We are playtesting Chris McDowell's um, Electric Bastionland update to Into the Odd, which will be a little bit different from the game that's currently published. This is our sixth and final session of this series of one-shot adventures. And I have a group of returning and brand new players for this final session. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a minute. This is a Gauntlet Hangouts game. Means that we follow the Gauntlet inclusivity policy, and in keeping that, we use the X card to deal with any kind of problematic content that we run into, or anything that we'd just like to move past when we get into the game. To signal that you're using the X card, you can use the X card button on our die roller. You can cross your hand as a big X on the screen, or you can just say X card. If you've made the X card sign or press the button and people do not seem to be noticing, that may be because people are not watching the camera. So feel free to just say X card aloud. We may ask a clarifying question just to make sure I understand what's been X carded, and then we will move past it. So or readapt without it. I'm glad all of you are here, and I'm glad that all of you watching at home are here. And I'm going to introduce we have one player who is going to be trying to join us late, is getting off work late, and will be joining us late. But we have three great players who are with us tonight, and I'm going to introduce returning player Bethany and ask her to introduce us to her character Blast. Bethany, introduce yourself and introduce your character.
Hey, I'm Bethany. I'm a biologist from North Carolina, and I am playing Jonita Blast, who is a former demolitions expert and accidentally blew up the wrong building and is therefore in a ton of debt. And she has survived two adventures with this group. So hopefully another one.
All right. Let's move on and introduce Victoria Augusta Burnaby, played by Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat. Is this focusing on me? Yeah. I'm Kat. I am a database developer, sometimes writer, and possible game designer from New York City. Thank you, Richard. And I'm playing Victoria Augusta Burnaby. She is a disinherited socialite from the infamous Burnaby clan, which is fabulously wealthy and has a tendency to fail upward because the individual talents of the family are somewhat suspect. Richard may remember another member of that family from way back, the memorable Frederick Augustus Burnaby III. Victoria is one of his descendants.
I'm not sure how long, he lived beyond the.
I have a feeling that sucker was just as lucky as hell, survived 10 expeditions, got put in charge of an army, and then they realized that was a terrible idea, so they found him some other job. Victoria's issue is that she has been disinherited from her family, and by means of questioning her parentage. So her plan is to earn enough money to see the Demon of Contracts in the center of Bastion, because the Demon of Contracts has the correct data on all possible contracts, but the bribes to get to see him are rather expensive.
All right. You also have some interesting equipment. You have 3 bottles of very good wine, it seems like.
Yes, they were liberated from the family wine cellar on my way out. A rather ornate claymore, also a family heirloom, and Fabby, a small ball that follows me around and occasionally I store stuff in, and is named after my illustrious ancestor.
Very nice. All right. Jonita, you also have a pet mole. Do you want us to tell us a little bit about the pet mole?
Yeah. I keep forgetting about him, but I carry him around in my shirt pocket, and I found him in the building I blew up, and was already feeling pretty guilty about that. So I saw this slightly injured mole, took him home, nursed him back to health, and he just kind of hangs out in my shirt pocket now.
One of the newer members of the Pigeon Street Shucklers, the crew that has been doing these expeditions, are John, Jonathan, Jack, and Calpurnia. Vince, do you want to tell us about the Urchin Pack?
Sure thing. I'm Vince. I'm a sales operations manager based in New Jersey, and I'm playing 3 boys and their dog. Calpurnia owns the 3 street urchins, John, Jonathan, and Jack, and kind of leads them through the city. Their parents are all in debtor's prison, and they're trying to pay off that debt so that they can no longer be effectively orphans.
And somewhere along the way, you got into the possession of a child's musket. Do you want to tell us a little bit what that is?
I think child's musket might be a little generous on the size of it. As I see it, it takes all 3 boys to actually be able to lift it, and Calpurnia has to do the pulling of the trigger.
Okay, all right. And then you each have a pocket knife and a set of rocks.
The dog?
Well, I would assume that
we attack as a pack.
Yeah, that the dog is in charge.
Barking directions and such.
Right. Okay. You guys also have you'll have Yonarla Cavendish with you, and once Jennifer joins us, as long as she's able to join us, she'll get to introduce Yonarla, and we will get Yonarla caught up to where you are when Jennifer gets here. I've sent out a very quick sort of briefing for you guys. Has everybody had a chance to read it?
I printed it out. I skimmed it.
Nice. All right. As you know, the Viscountess Gore, Lady Arena, who is both the chairwoman of the Profitable and Powerful Friends of the High Museum, as well as the chief curator of the museum, has made a terrible blunder. She let her nephew, Captain Agnon Bunnan, into the museum. He stole a powerful artifact known as the Null Rod, a powerful piece of arcana that has been known for destroying both human and alien technologies with a touch, as well as damaging alien creatures. He took several of his companions, who I've given you a few names for, and servants into the underground with him for unknown reasons after stealing the Null Rod. At some point in their travels, Captain Bunnan's party met a terrible fate, and only his valet, or Batman, Mr. Priest, escaped. Mr. Priest, who was a relatively young officer in the army, at the time he went underground, came out with white hair and promptly died of an overtaxed heart, leaving only a map, of which only a few copies were made. The Viscountess initially turned to her heir, Lord Valentine Manta, to recruit a sizable force of soldiers and go into the underground to try to retrieve both any survivors and the artifact. The one survivor of that expedition, which was only 48 hours ago, came back saying that they faced constant harassment, and then resigned his commission and fled Bastion completely. There's a few extra details there. There is there's something about a demigod living in the underground beneath Bastion. very far into the underworld. And there's certainly been hints that now that the defenses or the invaders leading up to this demigod's home have been softened up. You may be able to take a small party in and be effective where a large party would not be effective. Sadly, the Pigeon Street Shucklers were not the company that was hired. Gardner Expedition Services was hired instead, run by a minor rival of yours, Wendell Gardner. You were not hired, but Blast, how did you find out about the job that Wendell got and was probably asked to be discreet about?
One of his people, Albeck, he was bragging about it all over town. Apparently he was very proud of having his expedition having been chosen, and he just would not keep his mouth shut about it. I'm sure that all the other members of his group are unhappy with him about that.
Nice. And how were you able to liberate a copy of the map from him there, Blast?
I bought him, some whiskey, and I kept buying him whiskey, and eventually he passed out drunk on the table, and I just took his bag.
Nice. Okay. All right. Victoria, you have worked with Wendell Gardner before. Why do people find Wendell so unbelievably charming?
Well, they'll tell you that it's because of blood will out and an impeccable sense of breeding. But the truth be told, he tends to hire a coterie of followers and hangers about who spend a great deal of time praising him. And it's a contagious, what do they call those now? Mimetic information package. A MIP.
The MIP.
Yes, some people say meep, I say MIP.
In addition to the existence of Wendell the MIP, what do you know about Wendell that he wouldn't want you to talk about?
Well, of course, a young lady of breeding wouldn't speak out of turn about the things she saw at boarding school. However, I apparently am no longer of breeding. Therefore, Wendell has a rather pronounced weakness for experience, but being somewhat of a coward, he doesn't like to experience it personally. So he prefers, shall we say, chemically liberated consciousness. He's an addict, is what I'm trying to say. He's an addict to many, 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 many substances. Some of which are quite deleterious to the health,
Oh.
Some are just entertaining. Not that I would know, because I can't afford them.
Jonita, I'm going to circle back to you really quickly. You've been in the treasure hunting business for a while. What's shady about the way Wendell does business in the treasure hunting world?
It's everyone suspects that he always lies about where he got his treasure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's I don't think anyone has like seen or like definitively proved it, but he'll say that he got it from this one place that's, say, 2 days away. The timing just doesn't add up. So either he has some really great form of transportation, or he's just he's a very suspicious man. He doesn't want anyone to know where he's been.
Jack, Jonathan, and John, you used to know at least one person in Wendell's crew: Nanny, Leola, Lyra, Atesso, and Valo. Which of them used to live on the street with you?
I think Valo lived on the street with us, and we encouraged him when he was like, I've met a great treasure hunter. I have this wonderful opportunity. We're like, yeah, no, we've heard some stories, and a bit of the reputation that he's had is he likes to gather up a bunch of urchins when he's going on a treasure hunt, and if a monster comes along, he can just feed them urchins until they're tired of it.
Gotcha. Okay. And how long has Valo been with Wendell?
Not long. I think that he's a pretty new recruit. Long enough to hear a couple of stories, but not the more interesting ones.
I'm going to keep this question with Calpurnia. Let me check that message ready. 1 second. Let me make sure I got that. Jen. All right, you should be joining us just a second. And I'm going to keep this question with Calpurnia and the guys. There's a normal looking business that Captain Bunnan used to access the underworld. What was it?
It was a butchery. And
Opener, is it a extant butchery or is it a former butchery?
It's a former one that has a somewhat working meat freezer. Like I think there might be something supernaturally keeping it cold. And that's the entrance into the underground.
So how does that door work?
I see it as it's a trap door that is frozen shut and needs to be thawed. Usually you'll heat up a whole lot of hot water, like a full bath's worth, to melt the door enough to crack it open.
And it's already frozen shut again since he went in?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Victoria, you know of another entrance into the underworld at a place not far away. Is it a business or a residence?
It's a bookstore. Little unsavory.
What's unsavory about it?
Oh, clientele, ownership, subject matter. I mean, they say that everything's bound in demon skin, though I'm sure it's just perfectly acceptable human skin. I mean, you know, it's a relic. We don't do that anymore. We're civilized now. Civilized, yes, quite.
All right. 1 second. And I see Jen has joined us. Hey, Jen, I'm going to ask you to introduce your character in just a moment. I'm just going to catch up with questions. And we'll check in with Yonarla once we kind of get to the end of the questions list. Victoria, where in the bookstore do you go to get to the underground?
Oh, that's quite easy. First, you need to ask for a collection of Trollope short stories, which is the code word because he didn't write any. Then one goes down into the basement, takes a right, goes past the false wine cellar door. That's the opium den. You go through the opium den. There's a small trap door. You open that, you pay the attendant, and then down you go. It's easy. Bob's your uncle.
Right. I think at the end of that, there's probably several destinations, but what about that would make you think that could intercept the part of the underworld that you saw that Captain Bunnen's believed to go to?
Well, of course, back in the day when we were all at boarding school, we used to play mazes and minotaurs down there. Now, of course, the minotaur's retired now. He doesn't do that sort of thing. But the mazes are still there, and there are all sorts of rumors about the places you can access that go all the way down to the underworld. I mean, you know, robots and automata and all sorts of things.
Right. Last, I'm going to come back to you with a closing question, and then we'll introduce Yonarla. You suspect that both Captain Bunnen and Lord Gore have the Captain Bunnen who initially stole the Null Rod and Lord Gore who went into the underworld after him are both dead. You shed a tear for one of them. Which one?
I already forgot his name.
Captain Bunnen and Lord Gore. Lord
Bunnen,
Gore.
yes, there we go.
Oh.
Captain Bunnen, he always liked to slum it in my neighborhood, and you know, he was a noble, right? But for a noble, he was an all right guy.
All right. What made him an all right guy?
He was always willing to talk to people. I never once saw him kick an urchin. And like he's probably the only noble I've never seen kick an urchin. So, you know, he might have some kind of secret, but like as far as I saw, he seemed okay.
Calpurnia and crew. You were glad to hear about Lord Gore's fate, or at least you took a certain delight in hearing that he did not return to the surface. What about his past led you to take a certain delight in that?
Well, especially when put up next to Captain Bunnen, who never kicks urchins. The Lord kicks enough for both of them. He's a renowned urchin kicker, and we had received many a kick ourselves.
Wow, what an asshole!
He is. Was.
Was. God rest his soul. What an asshole he was.
Doesn't seem like God will be resting if he sees him.
Jennifer, I'd like you to briefly introduce Yonarla Cavendish and tell us a little bit about. She is the longest standing member of the Pigeon Street Shucklers. Has been on some very profitable expeditions with the crew. So introduce Yonarla briefly.
Well, what is there to say? Yonarla is just fucking fantastic. She's tall, lithe, very, very dark skin, and wears the most dapper fucking outfits you could think of in the brightest colors, fuchsia and orange and such, and she does not have any patience for drama or bullshit in her life, and if she encounters any, she's more than willing to remove the displeasure from life. But she has somehow become an effective leader. Is a stretch of him. It's a stretch, but
Survivor.
she is able.
Definitely a survivor. Huh? She's definitely a survivor.
Definitely a survivor. Yeah, and she's become really profitable out of surviving and sometimes putting her safety above everybody else's.
Certainly above that of her competitors and ex-girlfriends.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, too many to count.
And Yonarla has been in debt because she's been trying to kind of take the Prison Street Shucklers and maybe go legit, maybe get like official government contracts, or at least aristocratic contracts. And we've talked about the fact that you were considered for this potential contract, but a young person with a little more connections got it. Wendell Gardner has been sent into the underworld to retrieve the survivors and relics stolen by young Captain Agnon Bunnan from his aunt. That has now cost the city several soldiers. It's cost his aunt her heir, Valentine Manta. So now his aunt has to, find a new person to declare heir, and it's really, really frustrating for her. And she's hired Wendell Gardner to go into the underworld and retrieve the missing artifacts. Certainly, the theory is that Captain Gardner and Lord Manta, or the Gore heir Lord Manta, have softened up whatever is down there killing people, and a small expedition should be able to get in, sneak around, and retrieve the artifacts. You just have to do it before Wendell does. Luckily, Blast stole a copy of the map, or at least the map that you got from one of the survivors, from one of Wendell's crew named Albic. By getting him drunk. And you know of a butcher shop where the captain and his cousin, Lord Gore, both went into the underworld. And you also know of a bookstore that may have an intercepting passage attached to it. And I'm going to pull up the map really quickly. And I think all of you should have a copy of it. Let me know if you need me to send you that copy again. But you suspect that the butcher shop goes into the area labeled shaft to surface. But if you take the bookstore route, there's an area labeled possible shortcut. Now, you know, like any good treasure hunting crew, you know, a map is only as good as its source. And this map was apparently drawn by Captain Bunning before he went to this section of the underworld. So it's possible this is all bogus. What do you guys think as far as how you would like to get down into the underworld? It has been established that getting through the bookstore requires going through the hidden opium den underneath the bookstore, which may require a small bribe to the opium den operators. Where going into the butcher shop just requires unfreezing the door at the back of the freezer.
Now, one of the difficulties you see about trying to go through this freezer is that it's very liable to freeze back up upon us.
That is very true. That is very true. Which one of you said that?
That's Jack.
That's Jack. Okay.
I'm just watching Calpurnia because I know that's the one I need to keep an eye on.
You can tell because she keeps on going like this.
Well, you see, all Burnabys have the ability to detect the most intelligent person in the room. Now, most of us just immediately attack. However, that may be a characteristic only inhaled by the male side of the family.
Calpurnia gives you a little bit of a head nod.
Blast and Yonarla, what are your thoughts as far as how to get into the underworld? And Jen, if you can't find that map, just let me know. But it should be at the link I sent earlier. So
yeah, I think I have access to that.
Great. Okay. So what do you guys think? As far as getting in?
Yeah, if all we have to do is unfreeze the door, that's not a problem. I have this handy blowtorch.
That's right.
But if there's some other reason why we should go through the bookstore, I would be very willing to hear it.
You know, it's sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of opium before you before going on a mission, and we might as well partake in some pleasure before the nastiness awaits us.
You may be the only one who can afford it, but
Who said anything about affording anything?
Yeah.
I mean, as I was brought up, you always want to have the opium afterwards as a reward for yourself.
That's my thought. I think maybe we want to all be reasonably lucid, or as lucid as we get, depending on the person, when we go down there. But we could always come back through the opium den and forget about all the horrible things that happened to us.
I don't know why you would think that horrible things were going to happen, but you know. So in fact, with Blast there, you may be able to just take the door right off that old freezer. Is that what you would like to do?
That seems like a good idea. I don't want to have to thaw it again if we need to get out in a hurry.
All right. I think that's three of you. Sorry, two of you at least. Victoria and Yonarla, what were your thoughts as far as just taking the door off the freezer and going in?
I mean, is that where we are?
Yeah. As soon as you tell me where you are, as soon as you tell me which of those ways you're going in, I'll put you there.
fine.
I mean, you can always, if the map you have is correct, you can always just go back out through the opium den.
Yeah. We can rob the opium den on our way out. That sounds good.
All right.
And by the way, do I still have that like really flashy gun?
Do you still have the really flashy gun? I believe you do.
Okay. From last session. That's just something that I need to put down. I never put it on my sheet.
Oh.
But that's just an aside.
Okay. We will figure out what that gun did when it comes time to figure out what that gun did.
Yeah.
Since I don't have my notes from last session of it. All right. You're all able to work with Victoria. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
No. I'm quite willing to go along with these people. They seem to know what they're doing, and keeping them in front of me, of course.
Right. You're all able to get into the butcher shop. You see the door has already been open, both to the shop and to the front door of the freezer, and that the back door of the freezer has been open, but is already starting to refreeze itself. Yonarla, I'm assuming you're just taking the door completely off.
You mean Jonita?
Yeah, Jonita. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll thaw it with the torch, and then just like break the hinges with a hammer. And I have no interest in this thing ever closing on us.
Right. Okay. So let us. There's a long trip down. Darkness descends on you almost as soon as you step past the freezer, and you quickly get to where there's almost no light. What are you all doing for light right now? You always have enough torches, but I'd kind of like to know sort of who's going first, where who's holding the torches, things like that.
I say, Calpurnia, do you smell anything, girl?
Do we have a path, either direction?
You actually do not have much of a path except for forward and back at this point. The smelling, you are able to smell that there's definitely sort of a fungal, earthy smell. Emphasis on the fungal. Definite emphasis on the fungal. And Calpurnia hears something that's like the sound of screaming. But no one else really hears that. But
she gets very
very far
attentive.
away.
Hunches down and points.
Jonathan, no, Jack, what do you think she's saying?
I mean, I don't hear anything. You know what? Let's send John out ahead as a scout.
So is John getting the torch?
Well, it's a very tiny funeral.
I had a thought of there's any kind of bioluminescent just goop that they just slick his hair back with it.
There is bioluminescent goop.
Because we only have one torch among the four of us.
Oh yeah, no, you always have enough torches.
Okay.
One of the basic rules of Electric Bastionland is you never go out. You're professionals. You never go out without torches.
Okay.
You always have enough torches. You always have enough food. It's not good food, unless Yonarla has sprung for really good food. But you always have enough torches and always have enough food. But I like the idea of bioluminescent coop. Where did you get it, though? And which one of you stole it?
I think Calpurnia
acquired it.
Yeah. Calpurnia was the one that acquired it. Sent the boys in to beg outside of a chemist's, and while the proprietor was distracted, snuck in and built this concoction out of a couple of different chemicals available.
Clever girl, Calpurnia.
She's a scientist.
That's canine scientist. So yeah, you've got just a little bit of that left. So I think that, yeah, if you want to douse, is it Jack? Who's Jonathan going forward, correct?
Yes.
All right, so Jonathan's going forward, hair covered in bioluminescent goop. And as Jonathan descends, you are in sort of you get like just ahead of you all is a landing. And you can sort of see it in the last fading light coming in from the world above you. And then, the bioluminescent hair gel sort of gives it a pale blue-green look. And this looks constructed. It's not just a random cave, and it's not just dug out, or it's not just randomly dug out. It looks like there was some energy put into creating this landing. And Jonathan, sharp kid that he is, can see the dozens and dozens of footprints that have hit this landing and turned kind of exited in the one exit from this landing, kind of going roughly south and then curving back around, so you can't quite see much further along it.
And are these like shoe prints, or are they?
They are boot prints, scuff marks. It's if you might be able to see the passage, the signs of passage of Captain Bunnen's party, but it's been trod over by soldiers only 48 hours ago, and they brought in mud. You've already seen a lot of this mud upstairs in the freezer. And it's they're going out the door. And Calpurnia hears sort of a squeak, squeak, squeak sort of sound, and then silence, and then occasionally just a squeak, squeak, squeak sound from sort of down that kind of long hallway, but it curves so you can't really see where it goes. And there's kind of a sulfury smell that all of you get.
Well, now,
mixed with sort of the fungal sound.
As it turns out, I was studying the map. Yonarla, I don't mean to intrude, but according to this map here, there's a notation about bats. You don't think there are any bats here, do you?
I mean, I don't care. I didn't read it.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, perhaps we should be on the lookout for flying, screeching, hair-diving, monstrous, reptilian, winged terrors.
I mean, what? I've never had any problems with any bats, and if there's bats, we'll just shoot them.
I'm just saying they wrote it down on the map. It may be significantly more interesting than just bats.
I mean, we have a couple dogs here. Like dogs like eating animals. It's
We might all have fleas, but we're not all dogs.
I think you'll find she's referring to her pit bull there. Yeah. Wait 1 second.
Yeah.
I write a J in the dirt in his forehead. There. Now I'll know which one you are.
Very helpful. It doesn't say
But
what kind of
anyway,
bats.
I mean, we'll just shoot them, and the dogs will take care of them. They're vermin. Whatever. What we're here for is to make a lot of fucking money.
I agree. But, we can't do that when we're dead. I mean, the survivors will come out better. It's true.
I mean,
There are survivors.
what if bats killed people?
Well,
What kind of bats do
You
you
do
hang
see a
out with?
notation about 2 survivors, or about 2 deserters.
yes. Well, George Frederick Burnaby IV was killed by a bat, but that probably was his fault. Now that I think about the circumstances.
Calpurnia doesn't happen to find any bones, does she?
Calpurnia does not sense any bones in the immediate space.
It's a shame.
And the passageway seems to be leading down, which is, may lead to finding more bats or more bones. I knew it was a B word I was looking for. Down that way. So you've got a hallway in front of you. What do you do? And you've got a kid with bioluminescent hair, and I'm going to use a clock to keep track of that bioluminescent hair.
Right. Well then, I draw my pistol because I don't want to get eaten by a bat. First rule I learned on the street: if you don't know what it is, it can probably kill you. If you do know what it is, it probably wants to kill you.
Yeah.
All too true.
It's a
Words of wisdom.
odd world.
Yonarla and Victoria, I think both of you would be able to piece this together, because both of you have been in the underworld previously. That this map is really symmetrical for a map of the underground, so it's probably more of a subway map than it is of an actual to scale map.
I had to
you
do
probably
a
are
schematic of some kind. Yes.
Yeah. The other thing is that BAPs usually just only live underground during the day. They usually fly out somewhere at night to eat bugs and other things. It would be a relatively new species of bat, or one that no one's remembered to write down, or been too embarrassed to discuss their encounters with, or maybe just never survived. Possibly, probably just new, or embarrassing.
That's the fortunate thing about being a Burnaby. We tell the embarrassing stories about ourselves. We take pride in it.
So clearly, no Burnaby has met these bats before.
Well, you don't know that. They just might not have survived the encounter.
Right. That's very true.
You do know they disinherited me because I was only 24th in line to the head of the family. But, I'm down to 18 as of this Monday.
Interesting. All right.
Once you hit 25 and if you're a Burnaby, your life expectancy tends to plunge rather rapidly.
So going forward, and who's in the lead?
I think it has to be Jonathan. He's setting it. It's a more natural light for this kind of space. We don't want to
It does.
attract
It
the
does
attention
kind of
that
add a
torch would
nice
have.
kind of blue-green fungal glow rather than And who's coming after Jonathan?
Oh, I will.
All right.
I'll stick close to Yonarla because she seems to know what she's doing. Also,
Yeah, and
she
I've got
has
my
a
machine gun drawn, and I'm just, keeping an eye out.
The machine gun may have factored into my logic.
And where are the rest of the kids there, Vince?
They're staying very close to Calpurnia,
All right. And what's Calpurnia in that?
right in the back.
All right. Okay. And who has their guns drawn?
I sure as hell do.
Yonarla.
All right.
I somehow still don't have a gun.
It's all right. No one's blaming you.
Our musket it's strapped to the back of Calpurnia, and John and Jack are ready to lift it off and at least attempt to aim it. They feel like they might be able to rest it on her back.
All right.
Jonathan has some rocks.
You guys go forward. There's a slight descent, and this curves back around about 180 degrees, to where you're roughly sort of parallel to where the as you see on your map, you're roughly kind of parallel to where you sort of ended up when the earth under Jonathan's feet starts to get kind of a crunchy, things are going to break texture, like you're stepping on things that are going to crack.
It's a good thing that he's the tall and skinny one.
Right. If things crack, they will make noise. What are you doing up there, Jonathan, about that?
The moment that he hears that first crack, like he takes a step back.
Oh, I think Jonathan is good enough that you don't even hear a crack. You feel sort of the brittleness under your foot before, like you're just about to step on something that's going to crack and break.
Okay, yeah, he takes a foot back and tries to slide his foot along the ground to see if he can slowly brush debris away. And he's taking a little bit closer a look to see what it was that he almost stepped on.
So are you sort of bending your own head down?
I think
as you shuffle forward.
He crouches down rather than bends over.
So you sort of like frog walk forward.
Yeah.
All right. Just because that's a little difficult to do while walking, I'm going to ask you to sort of make a dexterity check, which just means roll equal to or under your dexterity.
Okay. I keep on clicking on this die, and I don't know what actually makes it roll.
I tend to just use the green reroll selected button rather than trying to. I am terrible at trying to get the double click time correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rolled a 1, which I believe is under my dex.
It is. Yeah. That's amazing, Jonathan. You are crouching down in a frog walk. All of you is going to see the glowing hair of Jonathan sort of sink as he kind of goes down and seems to still be moving forward, but very slowly. And Jonathan, you see in the pale blue light shining off of your head, the broken bodies of centipedes.
Ew.
And these are rather large centipedes. They're not giant in the sense of like, as big as you or anything like that, but they're definitely of the very large natural centipede variety. Certainly as long as your own forearm, your undernourished 12-year-old forearm.
Don't Don't step on the centipedes.
Bloody
They're
hell.
like all over the floor. Like all over.
Okay.
And you're sort of kicking around them. It's hard for you to actually sort of shovel them out of your way while shuffling, but you're creating a little bit of a visible path without sort of stepping on any by keeping your feet really close to the ground. And there are tons of them. And then the smell of sort of like compost and sulfur just becomes really, really strong. As you sort of wade in.
Have any of us begun to hear the screams that Calpurnia picked up?
No, not really.
Okay.
Calpurnia still kind of vaguely hears them, but as if they are far away in the distance.
She's not quite growling, but you can hear kind of like a guttural vibration coming from her. She's a bit ill at ease, and something about it, just the fact that you're not all having the exact same reaction, suggests that it's something beyond just the centipedes that has her.
Now, definitely, the pit bull is nervous. But, being a pit bull reflects nervousness by just being sort of vaguely passive-aggressive. Who's moving forward? I believe you were next, Blast. Are you Are you trying to move forward? Or are you taking a look? Or what are you doing?
No, I'm following Jonathan and doing kind of this just kind of like shuffling my feet along the floor slowly so as not to step on these centipede shells. And also beginning to wonder if maybe Victoria had a point about the bats, because any bat killing forearm length centipedes, I don't really want to wake them up. So yeah, I'm trying to be quiet. However, I'm a lot bigger than Jonathan, and I'm carrying a lot of heavy equipment. So
because Jonathan's sort of shuffling around, making a little bit of a path very, very quietly, I'm going to let one of you re-roll a failed dex check if you fail it, but only one of you. So let's start with a dex check. Jonathan? Or sorry, Jonathan, you've already gone. That would be Jonita.
And I failed at 20.
Do you want to use that one reroll the party gets?
Yeah. Rather than give it away immediately, let's go ahead and try and move this window around. No, that's the wrong window. There we go. Today. Huh. Okay, that did not reroll.
Okay.
Sorry. 10.
All right. Is that under your dexterity or equal to?
It's equal to.
Nice. All right. You start to come down on the head of a centipede, and you realize that you need to sort of brush it aside with your toe before you place your foot down, and continue forward and up. Jonathan, there's a little bit of a fork you're making out in the glow from your hair. Do you want to go to the left or to the right? There's not much that would tell you go one way or the other. In fact, on your little map that you'd seen, there wasn't much difference. Both of them lead out to that both of them lead out to a corridor.
Do we see footprints, or are they've all turned around?
You do not see footprints. They seem to have led into this kind of mass of centipede shells. But you've not seen any. You've not seen anything.
Okay. Well, I do see this symbol that seems to indicate a glorious victory in that rightward direction.
Right.
So I think that that seems like enough to go off of.
Okay. You start moving that direction, and I think in the back, John, Jack, and Calpurnia, sort of next in the group, see Jonathan's head just sort of stop and pause, and then kind of take a more rightward direction. Calpurnia and company, what are you doing?
Well, I think following along the same path. I think we were at the back of the group.
Right.
Yeah. So if Jonathan is the only thing that seems to have gone in that direction, I would expect that we've seen silhouettes of others following that way.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You were in the back of the group. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yonarla and Victoria, you were the people who were next. I apologize.
Yes.
You've seen Jonita slowly wade in, following that nice kid Jonathan, whose hair glows. And what are the two of you doing?
Why don't I go next and you cover me, Yonarla, with that gun of yours?
Whatever. Just go.
Aren't we cheery? So I try and remember all my dance instruction and hoping it pays off here. So here goes.
You had some decent dance instructors.
I did. And a 19, so that's fabulous.
Good instructor is not a good student.
Well, I don't have a beat. Do I have a beat? No, I don't have a beat. So that's going to be another failure, I have a feeling. That's of my 13.
You get in, and I think a series of things happen. Jonita, you're sort of plugging along. You see where Jonathan took a rightward fork, and sort of the light coming from his hair. You see the fork, and you're still sort of like going low to the ground there. Correct, Jonathan?
Yes.
And then Yonarla, you've got your gun out, covering Victoria, who's moving forward, plugging forward, very, very, very slowly stepping, and you can really just see silhouettes against the light of Jonathan's hair, as Victoria gets further and further into this cavern. And the floor is certainly tricky. And two things happen almost at once. Victoria, your toe comes down into a nice spot of open dirt that was clearly cleared out for you by the two people who came before. And then your heel comes down and you can't stop it. You feel it, and it like time stretches. You feel the breakable shell under your heel. and you try to stop, but
Oh.
you're already sort of lifting off the other foot. And then you hear the crack. And that's when all of you hear the crack in what has been almost absolute silence, except for kind of timid whispers among you.
What did I say? I said one thing. What did I say? I said, don't step on the centipedes.
Good thing
Jonathan,
you went first.
That's when your toe, you start to turn, and that's when your toe runs straight into the booted foot of a woman. Who seems to be underneath several centipede shells. And you can't really see her face. Maybe I think she's sort of fallen forward, but her upper body is mainly just covered in centipede shells, and she is not moving or responding at all to the fact that you just kicked her on accident pretty hard. She is clearly no longer among the living, Jonathan. And that's when, just as you hear the crack, you hear a flapping and a sudden loud squeal as the bats begin to surge around. Yonarla and Victoria both have your guns out, but I'd like everybody else to make a dexterity check and tell me if you pass or fail. And you can just make it for the whole group there, Jonathan.
That's matching.
That's a success.
Okay.
And what about you, Jonita?
Nope.
Jonita, you're going to kind of sort of be overwhelmed before you get a chance to react by these bats descending. But Victoria and Yonarla, you've got your guns out, so you get to go first. Before, as they're descending and moving in your direction, what do you do?
Well, I remember my training as a young girl on the Burnaby Ranch, and we used to shoot skeet and at birds and pretty much anything that flies, low-flying aircraft, pretty much anything. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to take a bead on what I perceive to be the leader and down him to create confusion in the flock.
Nice.
It's a theory. I'm going to go with that theory. So
Victoria, roll a d4.
Oh, bloody hell. That will not be good. Yeah, you got a 1.
A 1. All right. You seem to clip one of them, maybe, but it still doesn't seem to knock it out of the air.
Oh. Oh, this is an excellent dueling pistol. I'll have you know, Bat, you should be honored.
Yonarla, what's going on there? Since you had your machine gun out.
Yeah, so there are bats coming at me?
There's bats coming at your companions. There may be coming at you too. Right now you just see a mass of bats sort of lowering themselves. It's kind of hard to see where they're going against the bioluminescence coming off of Jonathan's hair.
Well, I have a machine gun, haven't I?
You do have a machine gun out.
Well, we didn't want to make noise. Well. Oh well. I'm gonna of lead into these flying creatures.
Nice. So roll your d8 with that machine gun as you spray them.
All right, so that was a 5. And since it's blast, every affected thing takes 5 damage. Is that how that works?
Here's a quick note on the Electric Bastionland rules and Into the Odd rules for the viewers at home, is that these are sort of fighting as a unit, which means that when you fight again, they have sort of a collective pool of hit points. But when you attack them with something that does not do blast damage, you roll a d4. But when you attack them with something that does blast damage, you roll your normal damage die.
Oh.
So your machine gun does blast damage. So that was just a fun little fact for the viewers at home. And I think we go over to John and Jack, and Calpurnia have a musket. And Calpurnia has gone into pointer position, I believe, if that's all right with you, Vince.
Yes.
All right. Are you ready to fire? She is actually doing an upward facing dog sort of thing.
Yeah, as I figured it, it's gonna take all 3 of them to actually be able to get the musket fired off. I think that Jonathan's rushing back, throwing rocks at the bats.
Yeah, so let's actually, you guys can go ahead and shoot the musket, and then I'll have you roll for the rocks as well, because you're gonna roll 2d4.
Okay. 2d4. Okay, so we have a 1 for one of them.
Right.
And a 2 for the other.
All right. You're not sure if you hit any of them, Yonarla, but they definitely scattered and sort of clouded, and you saw several of them flying upward and making screechy sounds around the bullets. You definitely injected a lot of confusion. And then you definitely see, as soon as Jonathan hurls a rock and the other kids shoot off their musket, with Calpurnia's help in her upward facing dog position, kind of using Calpurnia as a tripod, you're able to, definitely at least 2-3 bats fall out of the air. And you smell the coppery taste of bat blood, sort of mixed in with the smell of composting guano and sulfur. And whatever smell that the pit bull and Calpurnia don't speak of that dead centipedes give off. And I think it's this point when the bats come after Victoria and Jonathan.
Query.
Yes.
Is that a non-blast damage only applicable to ranged weapons? Because I have a 4.5 foot long claymore on my back.
It does apply to all weapons when people are fighting as a unit.
Well, in that case, I shall fire my pistol again.
Well, actually, but first the bats are coming at you.
Oh, bloody hell.
I know that's never what anyone wants to hear.
No.
Unless you're a real big fan. I mean, maybe a biologist who's studying bats. But I won't speak for, Beth would know more about that.
No.
You guys are doing relatively well in keeping the bats off of you. Jonathan, you take 2 hit protection of damage. And Victoria, you have the luck of the Burnabys with you as you take 1. As the bats sort of fail to even basically entangle themselves in your hair. And you're going for your claymore, I believe, Victoria. but I'm going to need you to roll a strength saving throw. So you want to roll equal at or under your strength, and you actually get to subtract 2 from the roll.
Wow.
Same thing for you, Jonathan.
That is excellent, for I got a 7, which is well under my strength.
Brilliant. Jonathan, how's that going? You also get to add, you're subtract 2 from the roll.
Okay, that gives me a 2 on the roll then.
Nice. All right. Definitely, there was something weird and disorienting about the bats screaming at you as they attacked you. But that's really all you can tell about it right now. Jonita, you're up. What are you doing?
Yep. I lack any ranged weapons. Well, I have a throwing axe, but that doesn't seem super effective against bats. But I do have this big silver-plated sword, so I'm just kind of swinging it around my head indiscriminately.
All right. Roll a D4.
4.
Nice. Your indiscriminate swinging knocks a lot of bats out of the sky as they seem to be coming for you and Jonathan, who's not too far away from you.
Fortunately, Jonathan is short. Well, shorter than I am,
Right.
So yeah, I'm not too worried about hitting him.
All right.
Taller than the other boys, shorter than most.
Victoria, you've still got that gun and you've still got your claymore. What would you like to do?
I think I'm marginally better with the pistol at this point, so
I think Victoria is also really good at pinpointing the one she missed. She has those Burnaby never let it go instincts.
yes, but I try and fight against them for obvious reasons. And another 1 point of damage. The lack of the Burnabys works both ways.
However, you did take that one down.
All right, very good.
Or at least you're not sure it went down, but certainly what the last thing you saw seemed to be 2 bat wings with no bat between them.
I'm going to take that as positive. Positive, yes. And try and remember that I'm striving to beat my family's normal casualty records.
Lovely. Yonarla. What are you up to? And you may still be on mute. I know it takes a second to switch off. Jen, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
I am. Yep. Sorry.
That's okay.
Takes a bit. Yeah. So, are the bats still hanging about?
They seem to be still flying around. You seem to have pulled several out.
Yeah. Well, another barrage won't do me any harm.
Roll a D8.
Ah, jeez. Where did that go? 3.
A 3? You see several clear out, but several seem to be quite annoyed about Jonita swinging that sword around them and seem to be ready to pounce on her. What are you kids up to?
Now that Jonathan's back, we can properly aim this musket.
Right.
He helps with the reloading and the packing in of the powder on it.
Right.
And is able to be there as the eyes to see what direction has to aim in. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, I was going to say that we pull the trigger, but if you had something else to add before that.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Calpurnia dramatically barks just as you pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Roll a D4.
Why is it? Come on. I don't know why it's not actually rolling it. Come on, roll. I'm just going to use the.
Please do.
It is not letting me do anything.
You may want to refresh.
I have dice right in front of me too.
Please use whatever works. I fully trust everybody on this call.
Okay. I got a 2.
A 2?
Yep.
Awesome.
With the careful aim and the combined efforts of everyone, we managed to do.
It should, but just the handful that are left as you knock several out of the sky descend onto Jonita. And Jonita, the Burnaby's luck seems to be rubbing off on you rather than the luck of the Burnaby companions. And you're only taking 1 point of damage.
All right.
And then I believe, are you going to keep doing your sword?
Yeah, it worked so well the first time.
Yeah, I don't even need you to roll, because that whatever you roll is going to knock almost all of them, the rest of them, out of the sky, even on a D4. They had 1 hit point left as the ones that remain clear out and break up. But I do need you to try to roll your strength or under on a D20.
Okay. Four, yeah.
All right. And give me 1 second. You got under?
Yeah.
All right. You start to kind of feel a swoon, Jonita, as you catch yourself. And you come down and you make another loud crunching noise on a centipede as you sort of catch yourself. It doesn't really matter since the bats seem to be scrawling around in horror. But then you feel something move past your foot.
It's not the corpse, is it?
No, it's not a corpse. Not all these centipedes are dead, and there's 2 of them moving past your foot. I'd like you to make a dex check, though.
Sure. 5, yeah.
A 5? All right.
Yep.
You can try to stab one of them, and you'll just roll a D8 before it tries to attack you.
One.
Just one. You only got 1?
Yeah.
Oh wow. I'm sorry. It sort of dodges around your sword, and you feel 2 sets of pincers just sort of dig in, one kind of to the back of your calf right above your boot, and one scuttles up your sword where you tried to stab it, pincing on your hand. And I'm going to need you to make 2 different strength checks, equal or under.
All right. That one's good. 20.
20? Oh,
Second one got me.
Jonita, you're going to take 4 points of charisma damage. And you just pass out.
Okay. I cannot afford to lose that much charisma.
And you guys see things already sudden move around, and all of a sudden Jonita's against the light, kind of in the light of Jonathan's hair. No longer casting, no longer as silhouettes, but as shining light on her. You see two much larger centipedes sort of rear up and attack Jonita. And one of them clearly bites her really hard right on her hand. What are you doing? We'll start with Victoria.
Well, I do have an extremely accurate dueling pistol.
You do? Do you want to roll that D8?
I do, as a matter of fact. And it's a 7.
Are you aiming for the one on her hand or the one on her that seems to be coming near her leg?
Which is the one that I think bit her?
The one coming up the sword towards her hand.
That's the one I shoot.
Yeah. All of a sudden it just blasts off your hand. Jonita, you're not sure if you saw it run away sort of underneath the bodies of the smaller centipedes. This one was as long as your leg. And the other one sort of fades back away, scuttling away at the loud sound. Jonathan can tell you where the bodies are. Where do you guys want to go from here?
Do I recognize the body? I am a socialite.
This is not someone, well, maybe. You don't know the name. I mean, you got it maybe in the briefing document. This is Ms. Gannett Dan. She was the captain's bodyguard.
Oh, yes.
She went down with her pistol out. And you can see the sharpshooter badge. You see several, as you see what look like, several dead bats sort of pinned under her.
Oh, Gannett. Next time, hold out for more money. Don't do it for love. Anyway, she's got a pistol, and poor Jonita doesn't have a gun.
She does have a pistol.
Do now.
It's got at least 3. It's the revolver has at least 3 bullets in it that you can see in the faint light of Jonathan's hair. Jonathan, I assume you're over there with them.
Mm-hmm. Is Jonita back awake?
Jonita never really passed out. She just sort of swooned slightly and caught herself.
Okay.
Calpurnia, keep an ear and a nose out for those centipedes. Exactly. Precisely.
Are you all moving forward?
I certainly have no desire to stay in here any longer than I have to. Bugs creep me out, and bats are worse.
There's no money back where we came from.
There's no money here unless... I don't know. Gannett was never... Nah, she never had money.
So if you're all moving forward... you come out in a good bit larger cavern. In this point, Calpurnia and what's the pit bull's name, Yonarla?
Yeah, like I care enough about it to name it.
Oh, I've seen you pet it. I've seen Yonarla under the effects of cuteness.
Dog number 2.
So
the first one didn't work out so well.
yeah. You all come out in this corridor, and Your dog, Yonarla, seems to be rather agitated about something sort of to where your map seems to indicate sort of going back away. Your map seems to indicate sort of going back in an excellent in sort of the opposite direction. A way where it's just labeled terrible screams, and that seems to be where your dog is sort of staring and whimpering. Calpurnia, you definitely hear weird screams from that direction, but it seems to be a direction that's leading off the map. In the light of Jonathan's hair, as you emerge from this little passageway, though, you see the cavern that this empties into is rather large. It's a good. It's several points. It seems like the ceiling of the cavern is way above the light that's being produced by Jonathan. What seems to be brightening slightly. Jonathan, you know that it brightens slightly after it's been applied for a while, but then it starts to dim. But this cavern, several points in the ceiling seem beyond what you can see by the lights of Jonathan's hair. But what is not beyond the light you can see by Jonathan's hair is the skeleton. Now, skeletons, when wandering around in caverns, are not something that experienced treasure hunters such as yourself would flinch at. But this skeleton is no normal skeleton. It's about as large as a. It's about as large as your attorney's office, Victoria. Your former attorney's office. Your new attorney.
Now wait, the one with the clock, with the room for his clock, or just the antechamber? This is important.
This is the one with the room for his clock.
Bloody hell.
Yes. I was going to suggest it's about as large as a Bastion apartment, but that would mean different things for each of you.
My dear companions, once we're done pissing ourselves in terror, may I suggest flight?
The skeleton is not moving. You'll notice it seems to be roughly where the map suggests that Captain Bunnan experienced a glorious victory.
Well,
Victoria, I do think that you said something about all the Minotaurs being dead or tired.
No. He retired, dear boy. He retired. Yes. I mean, last I heard, he retired. I mean, he had a cabin and talked about it a lot.
And then you hear a very familiar voice say, Victoria, fancy meeting you here as a lantern-wielding young man comes around the corner of the giant skeleton, the skeleton skull.
Let me guess. This is my dear chum, Wendell.
This is the beloved Wendell, the one that everybody, when they talk about lovable treasure hunters, there was one who died relatively recently who was just very sadly mysteriously turned up dead in the river one day. But Wendell quickly became the most loved treasure hunter after that. He's long history as an antiquarian, as long as a young man such as himself. He spent his entire 4 professional years as an antiquarian before taking up treasure hunting. right behind him are several members of Wendell's crew. Albik, who is well known to you. Jonita, who looks like he still has a little bit of the hangover. He looks a little pale in the light of Jonathan's hair and the lantern light. Valo, the young urchin, and an older woman named Lyra.
Wendell, fancy seeing you here. Isn't it derby season? I thought you'd be there for that.
Well, I'm just doing a little favor for Lady Gore.
Oh, how is she doing? I haven't seen Aruna in a dog's age. It's been donkeys.
She lost her heir. She lost her nephew.
Well, Aruna always was misplacing things.
Oh, that was hysterical, Victoria. Yonarla, what are you up to?
Oh, well, I thought I'd just take the air. Come down here with a heavily armed band of treasure seekers. As one does.
What are the rest of you doing on seeing the well-known Wendell Gardner up there?
I think that John, Jonathan, and Jack are just shocked that Valo's still alive. And Calpurnia goes to lick his face.
Make
If she
it
can
just
get
a
that close.
charisma saving throw.
Ooh, that is not where we're Vikings. Let's see. No, that is a failure.
Yeah, Valo is not impressed, but he's like, dog, back. I'm not no street urchin that you just lick my face.
And Calpurnia, disappointed or showing disappointment, walks back to the group with her tail between her legs.
Yonarla turns to Violet and is like, so who, or Victoria? Sorry, Victoria.
That's all right. I just assumed you forgot my name.
Yeah. I'm not very good with names. And Yonarla isn't, actually. Yonarla has a track record of not caring about people's names.
Yes, that's what I figured.
Violet, who is this character?
Oh, this is Wendell. He's a treasure hunter. We were at school together briefly before we got kicked out.
Should I kill him?
Well, I don't know. Wendell, are you going to try and kill us?
And he just looks aghast. Like, why would I try and kill you? He has his crossbow out. Why in the world would I try and kill you?
Well,
I have my machine gun out, so it doesn't matter.
I'm doing a favor for one of the aristocracy, and you folks are going that way.
What makes you think what way we're going?
And he's pointing back to where your pit bull is still sort of whimpering and looking like askance over its shoulder.
Oh no, we've been that way. It's like Maxim's. It was nice for a season, but the glitter is worn off, Wendell. But you're welcome to go down there. I'm sure you'll find it an entertaining experience.
My contract.
Oh, contract. Oh, well. Do we have our men of business about us? I'm sorry. I had to fire my clock when I got disinherited.
Well, my contract says that I'm looking for something this way, which I'm sure would be of no interest to you.
What?
And the terrible screams.
Don't you know?
And the terrible screams everyone can hear coming from that. You don't hear terrible screams, but he mentions them. The terrible screams everyone can hear when they get far enough down there should cover your lack of stealth skills.
Oh, Wendell. An insult like that is just beneath you, my dear boy. And just beneath you. You should be ashamed, my dear man. Just positively chagrined.
All right. I'm feeling like this conversation is getting a little bit beyond what we want to be having. So if you could please just tell me what the fuck you're doing down here, and I will or will not dispatch you based upon the information you give me.
Well, I'm the one who should be asking about what you are doing down here. And he produces this
No,
contract.
no, motherfucker. Calm down.
I have a contract from Lady Gore to come hunt for her nephew, who disappeared.
All right, we'll have that.
You'll have what?
Your contract. It seems like a good one, and I wouldn't want to pass up a good business opportunity.
Oh, like you could pass for me.
I'll just bring your head with me.
Well,
I do have Fabby. It fits head. You do know. You remember that, right?
Is that how we got rid of the last creditors you were looking to evade?
Wendell, my dear, do I have to remind you that I am a Burnaby?
Well, I'm very frightened for your companions.
Well, the 60% casualties is only those on my side. It's usually 80 or 90 on the opposition.
So anyway, we have official business down here. We can't very well have you all sort of poking your noses into it. So back down the hallway with you. I'm sure it's very profitable down that way.
And I go up to him and I'm just like, and I shove my machine gun into his gut. I'm like, now give us that contract, and we'll see what happens to your tum.
She makes a strong case, old boy.
Yonarla, just because it might go wrong. Roll your charisma.
Oh, shall I?
You shall.
5.
5. And he kind of blanches and he starts to wave his crossbow around. And he's just like, oh, what do I care? Lady Gore has a copy of the contract herself. She knows who it's with. She knows who the proper people to hire for this sort of thing are. Come along. Valo and the rest. Let's go that way. And he starts to move in his own lantern light to sort of a side opening that's labeled on your map as possible shortcut. And you see the scout logo there with the skull there, suggesting that at some point the captain sent a scout down that way. And he seems to be leading his group off in that direction. What are you doing?
Well, joke's on him. There's only heroin that way.
Yeah, hopefully it'll keep him busy for a while.
Now that is not where you thought it is on your map. You think what's called the giant stair. Victoria, you think that what's called the giant stair is the one that comes down from the heroin den.
Oh, that's it. Well, that would make sense. I mean, yeah, the Minotaur.
Right.
Possible shortcut to what then? Oh, bloody hell. Yonarla, what do you think we should do?
I say we follow these suckers at a short distance, and once they've been killed by whatever is lying in wait, we'll pick over their bodies. And I mean, this contract seems legit, and if it's an official contract, it could be worth a lot of cash, and we might as well just let them do the work and reap the benefits.
Is the contract legit?
The contract is definitely.
Oh, yes.
Yours.
Yeah, that's Aruna's signature. You can tell she misspelled her name. Well,
She does love to spell the family name with an A.
Yonarla, I wouldn't say that we should shoot Wendell in the back. I'm just saying that back in school, he was voted most likely to be shot in the back.
Your fancy upbringing is fascinating to me. Sorry. However, I don't care how he dies. It's going to happen. These things happen. If we're out for the same thing, they die, I don't. We move on, I get rich. This is how it all works. I don't know how you're going to do or these creatures with their dog, but Jonita and I, we take care of ourselves, and you might survive, but we'll see how this works out, and hope for the best, honestly. But he'll die. Rest assured.
Well, I must say those are inspiring words.
It's just I don't want the drama of having to not kill him.
No, it's quite pleasantly refreshing. In my family, the inspiring words usually given before a battle are something like "kill the buggers and pick over their bones." So it's actually quite homey.
So are all four of you planning to go after, or I'm sorry, all 7 of you planning to go after Wendell and the members of his crew?
It strikes
Sure,
me.
why not?
It strikes me, Calpurnia and Jonathan. Calpurnia should allow us to follow them without necessarily betraying our presence with light. What with her keen nose and senses and hearing and, well, you know what you've got, old girl. It's the whole package.
And she begins to sniff the air. First, if there's any bioluminescence that's still on Jonathan's hair, she licks it off.
Oh, yeah, okay. Brilliant.
Best not to give the game away.
Now, if you lick it off, you guys will be in complete and utter darkness. Other than the fading sight of Wendell's lamp. It's Valo holding the lamp. Other than the fading sight of his crew's lamps going down, descending a passageway that's off to your right.
Okay, but we'll daisy chain to make sure that we don't get separated.
When I say you are in complete darkness otherwise. So if you want to rethink that, whether or not that's what you want to do, that's fine with me. But think about that for a second. Do you want to do something else for light? Or do you want to keep
rethinking that?
Do you want to hold somebody back with light and send Calpurnia?
I have an idea.
All right.
I have Fabi, and you have bioluminescent gunk. Now, Fabi is my companion ball, and it can snap open and fit something up to the size of a head. Strange that the Burnaby should acquire such an item. What I'm thinking is that we could improvise a sort of bullseye lantern with Fabi. We can open him up a little bit to shine out a narrow beam of light.
So you'd sort of like fill Fabi with the last dose of the bioluminescent gunk.
At least some of it, yes.
It will take, you don't have much left of it, Calpurnia and crew. So it will take a good bit of it to get in.
Or we could just light a torch and hang on back and use Calpurnia to scout ahead with, oh, I don't know, which one are you, Jack? Yeah, you.
Eh?
I mean, Jonathan's the one with the glowing hair who's been forced to go first for a while.
We can give him an opportunity to survive, though. He can hold back a little bit just to provide like enough light to see by for everybody else.
Right. Okay.
Oh, that could work, sure.
So Calpurnia and Jack are sneaking forward, correct?
We haven't heard much from John through all of this. So many of them to keep track of.
I know. Well, I mean, there's the possibility that John is just the quiet one.
Yeah. Well, I think in that case, John should be heading ahead with Calpurnia.
Okay. All right. Is it possible that Victoria dressed John as Jack the entire time?
No. Jack has been pretty talkative through this.
Okay. Gotcha. It does make sense to send the quiet one then. I would like you to make a dexterity check.
Okay.
Where you are Vikings.
There, it's giving me. I'm just gonna do a physical one. Oh, that's not good. Rolled a 17. That is a failure.
Let me check one thing really quickly. So you are moving forward, and you get, kind of go down and you get along this hallway, and you can kind of see where their lanterns are moving, and they're a good bit ahead of you, and they seem to stop for a bit, and you're kind of catching up with them. And you hear the sound of people exerting themselves. Not like a fight. There's not like a clanging or punching thing, but you definitely hear heavy breathing and running. And then all of a sudden you see Valo back up and sort of get in a runner's position. Like he's about to take and he's still, he no longer has the lantern, and the light ahead of you sort of suddenly got dim, and all of a sudden you saw Valo sort of back up in that dim light, and he turns around, and all of a sudden he turns around, and you're almost right on top of him, and he just yells like, "We got a tail!" And he takes off and around this corner and makes you hear him before you even see him sort of make a jump. And as you look around the corner, you don't see Valo. You see a short cavern, about maybe 6 feet tall. Maybe if you were well fed and 4 years older, you'd be as tall as the ceiling of this cavern. But about half of the cavern looks like it's being filled with a giant insect's body that's just constantly moving through, like a centipede section that's just constantly moving through the cavern. And you hear Wendell's voice say something about, "Oh, don't worry about her brats. They'll never make it over." This really large insect's body just sort of keeps moving through the room. John, what are you doing? And Calpurnia too.
Okay, is it moving toward us or moving toward?
No, it's moving through two holes in the cavern, and you're not seeing the whole thing. It's almost like a snake of some sort or centipede that's just constantly moving through.
Do you say that Vola jumped through it, or
he seemed to jump? Oh, you would guess over it with the running start he took.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't get much room, but if you kind of went flat, you like a hurdle jumper, you could probably get right over it in a little bit of space you get.
Okay. Well, Calpurnia is going to start to bark. And basically, they know we're here now, so it's not going to be a matter of being sneaky. I want to get everybody else down here as quickly as we can.
All right, yeah. The rest of you hear Calpurnia barking like she's seen something. Are you going towards that?
I am.
Tally ho.
And once you all get there, you see what I just described. It looks like a gigantic, ever-long centipede is passing through two cracks in this cavern, partially blocking the way forward. Yes.
And one should note that I am no theologian, but this could be the Thane worm, Shagath Ka.
You would guess possibly no. You're
Thank
guessing
goodness.
what this would be a Googleopede.
Oh.
I mean, Shagath Ka seems to be a mere demigod.
A mere demigod.
A mere demigod. Whereas this thing seems to be actually mighty.
How fast is it moving?
It's not too fast. If you landed on it, you'd get knocked off. It's moving that fast, but not so fast as, you can still make out the pieces as they're going by.
Right, okay. And, I mean, it seems like we should just be able to, climb over it. Its head is all the way into one tunnel, and its tail in the other. It doesn't... Does it seem to have any, weapon, stingers, spines, whatever, on this midsection of its body?
No, at least not on the upper side.
Cool. So
the biggest thing would be trying to climb over it before it passes through the other side and bangs you against the wall.
Right. Okay.
Or drags you into the tunnel with it.
That's how much clearance is there?
Just about 3 feet above.
Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna start on the side of the room toward the tail, assuming it's moving forward rather than backward.
Yeah.
And just give myself a little bit more time, and just take a running dive, basically, up and over, because there's probably not really enough room for an adult to hurdle over it.
Make a dexterity check there,
Sure.
Blast.
Where did it go? There it is. Nope. I need to just stop doing anything that requires dexterity.
Blast, I'm gonna roll something real quick.
Okay.
You're pretty shaken. You take about 6 hit points of damage. Remember, all you need to do is sort of catch your breath to catch back up to your hit points. As you sort of land on top of it, and then get kind of smacked into the cavern wall and then sort of roll off the other side. So you managed to get to the other side. It just was not a painless and pleasant
Right.
process. So Blast is now on the other side of the Googleopede. What are the rest of you doing? And Blast, you can see the light of the 2 lanterns that the other group had sort of passing slowly.
Still the
Calpurnia.
same number of silhouettes?
Yep.
Calpurnia, what do you say you and I jump over, and then we'll be able to help the rest of your crew over?
Ooh. She agrees.
Tally ho then! Alright, here goes
Why
nothing.
the hell does she keep talking to this dog?
'Cause the dog's
Where
the
do we
smartest
get
one
these-
here.
Where do we get these people, Jonita? I don't understand.
Yeah, you are talking to Jonita, who fed the treasure to someone to bring them back to life last time.
Oh my! I'm surrounded
Yeah.
by idiots.
All right, so dex
We're
check.
nice people. Yeah, please make a dex check, each of you.
Aye, 20.
Yep.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's not good.
And 16 is not good either.
Ouch. So
Victoria, you think you've got it. When your foot drags the top of the googolopede and sort of snags between two sections of it, and then you're sort of dragged sort of towards the wall and roll off just in time.
Ouch.
Taking 5 hit points or hit protection of damage.
I feel marvelous. Simply marvelous.
Calpurnia, you take 4. However, you'll be able to get the others over pretty quickly without needing an additional check.
Yeah, thank you for not making me roll 4 times.
Yeah. No, that would be weird. I mean, it wouldn't be weird. It would be a way some people would do it, but yeah, that just seems like a lot of time rolling. When I just have so many other opportunities to take away hit points from you. Yonarla, everyone else is on the far side of this googolopede. What are you doing?
So, do I have the... Am I getting the impression that this will take a very long time to pass?
You would guess that you will not get a visual impression of, like, just like a centipede. The sections of a centipede don't really tell you where in the body it is.
How long has it been since it started crossing the path?
That's the problem, is you don't know. And these things can be multiple miles long.
Multiple miles long. Oh, well, okay. So, Jonita, how did Jonita get over?
Everyone's been jumping.
Painfully.
Everyone's been sort of unsuccessfully jumping over.
Give me a second to think about something.
Now, the 3 of you on the other side can see the lanterns continuing to get dimmer. Jonathan, Jack, John may keep his own counsel, but the 2 of you are hearing Valo's voice laughing heartily as they proceed forward, clearly in on some adult joke that
He sounds like he's having more fun than we are.
Well, they are ahead of you, and the light from them is getting dimmer.
Yeah, I'm gonna just jump it.
They're getting away, and they're telling dirty jokes.
Yonarla, make a dexterity check.
9, which is my dexterity.
Yonarla, you managed to swing this, and you're able to get through by sort of angling where you see kind of the low part connecting between the 2 sections is going to be, and jumping that direction. And it's mostly luck that you then bound off the side of the cavern with your foot and sort of land on one foot, manage not to twist your ankle, and bring your other foot down. And all of a sudden you're on the other side of the cavern. Now,
Let's go. Let's follow them.
Yonarla seems to be intent on going ahead, but all the rest of you could use a moment to catch your breath, which would restore all your hit points. What do you want to do?
You know, Yonarla hasn't gone ahead yet.
Yeah,
Bravo. Just
go on. We'll be right there.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You can wait for these guys to catch their breath, these klutzes to catch their breath. Or you can go on and let them catch up with you. I mean, you do have a machine.
No, I'm you know, these meat shields are important to me.
All right.
So we'll rest for a moment.
All right. Please restore your hit points to max. And we are just about to take a break. Just to kind of give you that heads up. Once you get your hit points to max, you still have one more dose of that bioluminescent cream that you've not used up. And the one you've used seems to be fading. Are you going to renew it, or are you just going to light a torch?
I mean, they know we're following now, don't they? So it wouldn't hurt to just use a torch.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So who's holding that torch?
I'll hold it.
Nice, thank you. You get forward, and you're definitely not seeing the tracks of any advancing army down this direction. Calpurnia or anyone else, or Jonathan of the formerly glowing hair. But it twists sort of towards the left a bit, this passageway. And you go down some sort of low graded steps, and you find yourself in a makeshift cavern that looks like part of it was sort of carved out to try to make a room. And you stop seeing the footprints of Wendell's group. And along sort of the wall, and you see another, and you've gone down a bit, and you see a tunnel sort of veering back in the direction that you just sort of came out of, as if, this room kind of U-turns, or the passage sort of U-turns away the direction you'd originally gone, into a very narrow passageway. But along the wall, before you get to that passage, you see kind of a shiny, glassy surface, and the footprints of Wendell's party seem to lead up to this sort of shiny, glassy surface that's actually like framed like a doorway. And there's sort of just kind of a haze past the doorway. And it's not like you see like footprints leading directly up to, and then passing through. You'd expect to see some shuffling like in the doorway if they'd pass through. You see footprints leading right up to it. And in the middle of this room, as you guys come into it, you see what looks like a dust devil starting to form. What do you do? There's also a hallway past the Dust Devil.
So there's a dust devil like in the middle of the room, and there's the shiny surface.
And it's just starting to form, but it's quickly sort of picking up wind speed, and you're feeling a slight breeze.
Right.
The torch is
Okay.
starting to flicker.
I mean, is this an open area? Like, why is a dust devil forming?
It is a very wide cavern.
Calpurnia and the boys are going to spread out a bit so that if this dust devil starts to come after us, it can't come after all of us all at once.
Right.
Posit that anything we don't know what is probably going to try and kill us.
Does it seem to respond to our presence, or is it does it seem to be directed?
It is slowly moving towards you.
Okay.
I suggest either the passageway or we risk going through that portal. I don't know, though. A portal's what killed Emmanuel Burnaby. He's one of the smarter ones.
There's the hallway on the opposite side that seems to be U-turning and going roughly back in the direction you came from, though, in a slightly different angle. There is something that seems to clearly be a portal, and there is the Dust Devil.
Have we seen any footprints coming this way that weren't Wendell's?
No.
And his crew? Yeah. So they're just trying to use a shortcut. They're not following the initial group. I'm not really sure why we came this way now.
Well, they are after the same thing we are.
Right.
Is there any indication that that Wendell used the portal, or?
Their footsteps go right up to what you think is the portal and stop, and they're not there.
Right.
Well, let's just go
like
through
something
the portal.
came out and grabbed them.
I can
stick
my gun in and shoot, and then we can walk through.
That sounds like a good idea.
Throw a firebomb in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about what's on the other side.
Flashbang sounds brill. Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to toss a flashbang through the portal. Wait, half a minute, and then walk in.
And here's hoping that it goes through the portal and doesn't bounce off it.
It does not. And let's take a break before you guys walk into the portal. And we'll come back at 10:35. Does that sound about right?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. I'll see you guys then. Hey, everybody. Did we lose Beth?
Ooh.
Let me shoot her a... Give her a second to get back on. Well, she's trying to reconnect now, so I'll give her just a second to...
Yeah, I had a weird thing the other day where Google dropped me 3 times.
All right. One sec. Okay. Beth's going to reboot and be with us in just a moment, I'm assuming. There used to be a wonderful option where you could just call out from a Google Hangout and connect to somebody by phone, but that seems to have gone the way of the dodo.
See that Wendell's crew has only middling charisma.
You know, Valo was not the most charismatic kid, and he may be the most charismatic member of that crew.
Ooh.
Charisma, yeah. I'm not even sure if 6 is middling.
Does it just count as low?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for Yonarla, anyone with less than a 15 is low.
Ouch.
I cannot believe you made those rolls.
I
Oh,
know. When we did the increasing of the thing, I was just like, wow. Like every time it was like a 19 or a 20. Whenever it was like, oh, let's roll to see if you get higher. I'm like, oh, jeez. Because I started out with what? I think
The 17, something like that.
Yeah, and
My overall
now I'm
stat
at
rolls
19.
are right in line with what I've come to anticipate from my history of rolling.
Oh, yeah. I did a great job of rolling up stats the other day for a character and then did an abysmal job of actually rolling while playing the character. All right. So I'm going to let Bethany catch up with us. Yonarla, you stand in front. You throw the flashbang into the room. And as you reach forward with your hand, You get kind of a cold, icy feel on the hand as you sort of let go of the flashbang in the throw, and you pull back, and it's like there's slight amounts of frost on your hand, and you realize that in a second, and then you count down the 30 seconds you were going to wait, and you get about halfway through the countdown when that slow forming dust devil behind you suddenly collides into your backs, kind of engulfing all of you with a misty, hazy whirlwind coming out of the portal at you. Colliding everything together. And by the time all of you come to, I'm going to need you to roll. Actually, I'll roll a d4. Each of you take 1 point of damage. And that's just as Bethany joins us soon enough to take 1 point of damage. Bethany, they threw the flashbang through the portal, and then all of a sudden the portal surged back at them with the whirlwind behind them and the whirlwind in front of them, sort of forming together. And everybody took 1 point of damage. And when you come to, the torch is out.
Okay. Let's see.
And you are in a big open space, or a small open space. It's really hard to tell when it's completely dark. You can hear each other, what you assume is each other, moving around. You're just on a dirty, muddy floor. I mean, not super muddy, but certainly there's some dampness in the dirt. It's not completely packed down. And there's what feels like coins and other stuff just sort of tossed around near you. Sounds like a lot of coins because each of you are finding stuff. And it is completely, utterly dark. What do you do?
Jonathan, are you there? Yeah, I'm here, Jack. John? John? What?
John
so that's what he sounds like. All right.
John hit puberty way before the other two.
Now I've been keeping notes. We know that Jonathan is the tall and skinny one, John is the quiet one, and Jack is the talky one.
Right.
I think it'd be best if one of us lit a torch.
Carefully. I don't trust this.
I mean, if you're just starting to not trust things, you're way more trusting than I am. But
well, I mean, I especially don't trust this.
Oh, yeah. I figure anything that lives in total darkness probably knows we're here anyway. Can hear or see us, so we might as well, even things out a little and be able to see.
Are you lighting that torch?
Yeah.
You light up the torch. You see each other. And then you see about in the torchlight, you notice kind of floating just above your heads as you're kind of on the ground. Well, the first thing you see is on the ground, there is a lot of loose change. There's a couple of wax sealed vials. There's what looks like a weirdly chrome covered sword hilt. And you glance up overhead, you see there's kind of a green luminescence coming from over your heads, kind of gleaming off the coins. There's just skulls floating. And there's like, you see at least 8 of them. But there seem to be more just kind of floating through this narrow corridor you find yourselves in. It's not a big open space. It branches off in 3 different directions you can see in the torchlight. And they seem to be just sort of randomly drifting towards those open directions and sort of disappearing as soon as they get outside the range of your torchlight. You counted 8. There may have been more before you turned the torch on, before you lit the torch. And there's you're in like I said, a narrow corridor, but one where 3 narrow corridors, a more open space where sort of 3 narrow corridors come together. And there you are, 6 humans and 2 dogs. And a secreted away mole. And let's just call them west, east, and south corridors. And you're sort of at the junction, like kind of a wide junction of these. And the skulls have sort of drifted out away. And there's no sign of Wendell's crew, and there's no sign of the flashbang you threw through the portal. What are you doing?
Is there anything distinguishing about any of these paths, whether it's a smell or a breeze or anything?
One of them smells oddly of cold, and you notice flies going that direction.
There's a spot on the map marked flies.
Cold and flies. That's a pleasant combination.
Which corridor is
Well,
that?
I ain't getting. I
That
ain't
is
getting rich just standing around here. But,
that is the eastern corridor, Victoria. I'm sorry, Yonarla, you were saying? I apologize.
Oh no. Yeah, I was just saying. I'm not getting any richer standing around. So let's just pick a direction. And I mean, is there any evidence of the people who we're following?
No. I mean, there's just those things I told you about, the coins, the sword hilt, and a couple of those wax-sealed vials.
Yeah.
I'm getting mixed signals. If we were to follow the map to the south, we see an unknown terror, but we also see a glorious victory. And a casualty.
Now, may I suggest, you did take the possible shortcut, which led into unknown space.
Mm-hmm.
And you do definitely see the, New York Emergency Services wants you to know they're there. You do see something that's leading down into another direction that they clearly did not send a scout into. So there's lots of space on the map that has definitely not been explored. You may be in that unexplored space.
We may be.
Where it says Shagath Ka's back door was.
Yes. No, I've been pondering that one. Yes. That's great. That's great. Well,
you also don't know if you went through a portal or if you got sucked into a tornado. The thing about your torch going out is it's kind of hard to tell. Also, there's from both the northwest and the south, there's a feeling of cold, and from the south, there's specifically a sound of running water.
Okay.
And the northeast is where you hear the buzzing of flies. Also cold toward the northeast.
All right. What's the story with these coins and that sword?
There's looks like coins of the realm, or antique coins of the realm. Nothing too foreign or exotic. There's a lot of them though. There's about 150.
I counted.
Shall we take some of these?
The nice thing about being in debt is you learn to eyeball the amount of coin pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, that looks pretty fucking good.
There's a lot of coin on the ground. There's also that chrome sword hilt and a couple of bottles.
I take the bottles.
And
I mean, I take one.
We can divide up these coins equally 8 ways.
4 ways, I think you'll find.
Children don't get a full cut.
Yeah, you're all minors. I mean, Calpurnia I'd be willing to go a full cut with, but not the children.
But you're mad, so I'm not going to take your advice.
I didn't say you should. I just said I was willing.
You can take that out of your own cut.
No, thank you.
Nah, well, there we are.
So you each have around 37 pounds in coin on you. There's, like I said, you took those 2 potions, Yonarla, and there's that chrome sword hilt and the flies buzzing.
Yeah. Tell me more about this sword hilt.
It seems to be, it has kind of an uncomfortable grip. You would think that hitting something with the sword hilt, if there was an actual blade on the end of it, would hurt, because the grip is sort of like designed for holding like you would hold a tool. So if you hit something with that much impact with this, and there's sort of it's almost like I don't know. It's where it connects to what would be the cross guard. There seems to be something you can turn.
Dear. I think this is some sort of tool. Perhaps the blade is hidden in some way.
Well, try pointing away from yourself before
Yeah.
messing with it too much.
Well, I seem to have been volunteered. I'll do that.
You pointed away from yourself and at
the ground.
Make a dexterity saving throw.
Oh,
Victoria.
okay. Well, I might not be a Viking there, but I'm certainly slightly hairy and perhaps horned. But not today. That's a 16. The dice hate me.
There's a loud shriek as the damp, musty dirt on the ground, just that was sort of loosely packed down, just sort of flies up around you, and you're pushed backwards by the force of something. Victoria, and there was a lot of noise. Victoria, you're going to take 5 points or hit protection points. As I try to gracefully pick up this die I just dropped.
Easy come, easy go.
And you're pushed sort of backwards against a wall, begging your head. But it's not. It's just sort of a. It's not a heavy. Certainly not something that would give a concussion to a Burnaby.
Now, remember, I actually have a brain, so.
That's debatable.
Ouch. Listen, for Burnaby, I'm in the 99th percentile.
And you begin to hear sort of from the northwest corridor. Now the fly sound is coming from the northeast corridor. You had sort of a cold air coming out of the northwest corridor. And behind you to the south is also cold air. So
well,
you don't hear anything coming out from the northwest corridor. You begin to hear a footstep or two.
May I suggest that we get the hell out of here?
I absolutely agree.
Let's try the opposite direction.
Pick a direction, fearless leader. We shall follow you.
And Calpurnia taking that cue. I think I went ahead in the direct opposite of where we hear the footprints coming from. So would that be southeast?
That you had south, northeast, and northwest.
And footprints are northwest, correct?
The footsteps.
Sorry, footsteps.
Yeah, that seem pretty hesitant, but they seem to be coming from the northwest.
Okay.
And Calpurnia definitely hears like a low voice. Calpurnia also does no longer hear the screaming.
Okay. Oh, Calpurnia heads south. Cautiously.
South.
Yeah.
South. Yeah, that's.
I've put Shrieking
I'll go
Sword
south.
Hilt on my inventory, so we'll see how that goes.
As you get close to the south, you notice that coming from below the level of the cavern floor, there seems to be sort of a soft glow coming up. And the narrow cavern you're in opens up to a small ledge. And you hear running water kind of coming under the ledge. And you sense sort of a soft glow sort of pulsing. And the water seems to be running, and periodically you'll see kind of from the far edge of the cavern wall, you'll see sort of a spray of water as if somewhere in there's too much water gathered out and it's sort of trickling out, but occasionally the pressure builds up and sort of sprays or geysers out. And there's a little bit of that mist gets on you. And it's that soft light coming from below, kind of when it does that, almost kind of forms a little rainbow. And all of you here, what can I do for you, Calpurnia?
Actually, now I'm debating if we want Calpurnia to speak.
Calpurnia is a dog.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I need to communicate to you.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell me what Calpurnia is thinking.
Yeah.
Perhaps in images might be interesting.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And all of you
Yeah,
were
so-
following, correct?
Yes.
Even John.
Oh yes.
So, yeah, the images that Calpurnia is thinking, is projecting, show her have tracking a scent and losing that scent and trying to find the surface again and not knowing her way.
And you all hear the voice say, "The Oracle sees and knows all things, Calpurnia. You have hunted for 3 today. 2 were men, and 1 was an item. One of the men you hunted is long dead. 1, well, if you wait far enough into the future, you will eventually find him. And the 3rd does require that you follow the flies."
Well, that's quite vague. Shall we? So, if we're looking for the rod, we should go follow the flies. Is that what you're saying, Oracle? Or shall I relay that to Calpurnia first?
Of the Nell rod, I will only say this: follow the flies. Dear Madam Burnaby.
Well, it's still missed. Thank you very much. But and is there grave danger? Shall we follow the flies? I mean, on a scale of here versus something simple and truly heartrending, like going to the opera in the off season with one of the gore airs.
Now I wish I had a random opera name generator, Cat. I feel like somebody needs to
The Torchbearers. How about that?
do not go see the tragedy of the Burnaby Porters.
Look, we
Or the
banned
lizard
that
folk.
fair and square. They're not allowed to perform that anymore.
Nor should you attend the lizard folk's revenge.
There's a good area in the second act, but you're right.
Jonita, is there a question you have?
You say that the second man is not dead?
Well, certainly not in the future.
So he's dead now, but he soon won't be dead. Or in the future. Or he will be dead in the future.
Well, where he is right now and whether he'll return to now, I have no idea. But he's not dead in the far future.
All right. That's...
If you wait long enough, you may get to talk to him again.
Rough estimate on how long that might be.
Well, that all depends on the decisions they make.
Am I to understand that there's been some sort of time travel? I know it's a blue sky concept, but They're talking about all sorts of things now.
You're not the only ones who care to find the null rod.
And Oracle, you are as crystal clear as I've heard that oracles are.
Madam Cavendish, while you still live, do you have a question?
Fuck you say? Oh gosh. No.
That's very interesting. I don't have an answer for that.
Why would I care what you think?
And you don't hear the voice again. The light still continues to pulse. The water pressing out of the edge of the cave still sort of pulses every now and then, geysers out. There's a little bit of mist. But otherwise, everything is quiet.
Can we gather up any of the glowing algae or whatever it might be, seeing that we're...
It doesn't. The light doesn't seem to be coming from anywhere. Are you sort of moving forward to test it out?
No.
Okay.
Well done, my boy.
Good
Remember the first rule. If what you don't know about is probably trying to kill you. What you do know about is trying to kill you.
So, to the flies?
To the flies.
To the flies.
To the flies.
Yonarla, you have plenty of those bombs, right?
I have a few.
That reassures me. To refresh my memory, weren't those footsteps coming from the direction of the flies?
No, they were coming from that was the northwest where the footsteps, the fly buzzing was coming from the northeast.
Oh, well then. So there's some possibility that the heavy footfall person will be waiting for us when we return to the junction. Excellent. I'm sure he'll have nothing but praise for our endeavors and boldness.
Calpurnia puts her head down and just rubs a paw against her forehead.
That's adorable. Are you heading back to the direction you came?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Just as you get sort of near there, kind of out just beyond the range of your lantern light, or sorry, I keep saying lantern when you have a torch, blast. Yonarla, you hear all of you hear sort of a zip pop. And you hear a low, muffled voice. You can't really make out what they're saying. But Yonarla, this is a voice you've not heard in a while. It's a voice you associate with a one-time competitor. And you hear sort of a, I don't know, and that's the voice of Honora Dreg, former leader of the disappeared Dregs Recovery and Salvage treasure hunting crew. Yonarla, what does everybody else find likable about Honora that you find insanely annoying?
She's so sweet. She's always being so, it's just cloying and clearly a false affectation to me. Everyone else sees her as just this sweet person, but really she's so fake. And I can't deal with that.
And then you all hear it sort of crystal clear. You hear like, oh dear. Oh, you don't need to say anything. Sweetie, come here. Let me look at that thing. Yeah, someone, you say it came through a wall? Oh. Just throwing grenades in. So unprofessional.
And so where's this voice coming from?
Like you guys went to the south and you're heading back to where those halls sort of intersect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming from that intersection. And there's footsteps sort of leading away from the intersection or away from you guys.
I'm just gonna. I want to throw a firebomb at. No, maybe I should talk to her first. That sounds more fun. I try to catch up. I'm like, I make hand signals and I'm like, let's go.
You're running forward?
Yeah.
Blast, are you following?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Victoria and Calpurnia and crew?
Well, I mean, she doesn't sound mean.
And I've got my like pistol,
Right, but I don't interpret that as a sign of danger.
I mean, not any more than
No.
we would anything else.
Yeah.
You catch up and you see she's got one of those really nice glow orbs. So you can see her sort of moving down the Northwest Passage with these hunched, looking like they're sort of bent over, robed creatures. And she's patting them on the shoulder and saying really nice things to them. She seems to have somebody with her. In addition to those robe creatures. But she's kind of following along. Oh, and then that's an indignity. That's just unworthy of his office. Yes. They treat them much better than that. No, and yes, a healing bath for 2 weeks. Oh, I wouldn't blame him at all. What do you guys do? They're going northwest. The buzzing sound is still coming from the northeast. You can still make it out, especially you, Calpurnia.
I think Calpurnia is very much in the mood to get to the northeast. She's not as concerned about this discussion among humans, and a rod is kind of like a big stick.
I mean, to be honest, I recall the words of my noble ancestor. If they're wearing robes, it's not a good sign.
She did join a cult, but she should be dead.
She
that
joined a-
island just disappeared.
She joined a.
She should be dead.
Well, bully on her for surviving, but people who are supposed to be dead, that's usually not a good sign.
I know.
Point.
And at the same
But
time,
she
you
causes so much drama. I can't deal with it.
There isn't any. Well, I think there would be less drama if we just go toward the flies. I mean, there will be drama, but it will be fly involved rather than mysterious former rival who should be dead involved.
Well, I can't argue with that, and I actually didn't.
Fine. Look at me here. I'm causing the drama. No. Yes, you're right. Let's keep our heads on straight. I just really hate her.
Yeah, we don't want to get distracted by her. We get if there's money to be made, assuming the Oracle wasn't lying to us, which, you know, I guess we don't have any reason to trust the Oracle, but yeah, the flies seem like the best. Well, the flies seem like the least terrible option.
The least terrible option is my family motto.
You get to a forking path, and both of them seem cold. But the path to your right seems to definitely have more of the buzzing sound. The path to your left sort of smells like someone died.
Well, we know what flies like.
But they're not coming from the same direction.
Huh.
There is you see some very large flies. They can't possibly be
Okay.
that large. I mean, it's hard to tell in the torchlight. They seem to be coming out of there and moving back.
Are these flies very large in the same way the centipedes were very large?
Oh, I mean, not that at all. I mean, they're not any bigger than, say, like your palm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that seems downright cute and harmless comparing to the centipedes.
That weird oracle voice in the water or whatever it was did say follow the flies.
Yeah, we've come this far. Let's follow the flies.
Generally speaking, we trust those things, right? Weird disembodied voices.
No, definitely not. But we don't have any other clues, so we're gonna maybe pretend to trust them, but I don't think we trust it.
So you follow the sound of the flies. And you go forward, and Jonita, you have the torch in your hand, correct?
Yeah, I still have it.
The passageway sort of widens and then it narrows a lot. So you guys are going to have to go single file. And I assume, Jonita, are you going in front?
Sure, why not?
And who's bringing up the rear? I don't need a strict marching order. I just kind of need to roughly know who's in front and who's in back.
May I suggest Machine Gun Sally?
Yeah, I'll take up rear.
Awesome. Yonarla, you're in back. Jonita's in front. You've got the newbie safely protected in the middle. And it kind of, the passage sort of hooks back around and comes up into a broad open space. And at first you don't see anything in the cave, Jonita, and then you look down.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, you know, you had a slightly wealthier neighbor's mom who collected all the little houses that were supposed to represent the old country villages. Like, oh, here's the little village store, and here's the, you know, the cabbage farm, and here's the oryx farm, and here's the orchard, and here's the little, you know, free lending library, and here's the noble's manor. And here's the Church of the Death God, and here's the Temple of the Love Deity, and, you know, all the stuff that used to be in like a, you know, everybody's romanticized image of a deep country village. And it's like you're seeing that, except the structures are all weird and slightly uniform, almost like they're sort of built as domes. And then you realize you're really cold. And a slight wind blows across, and you see more of the flies kind of landing on the far side of the village. And then a bunch of people looking like they're in shaggy, furry coats with helmets and big, bushy beards kind of come out of the village towards you. Luckily, they might be kind of imposing to Jack, who I think is the smallest one.
Yes.
Or maybe the pit bull, but to you, you're guessing that none of them are over 9 or 10 inches tall.
Ah.
They look almost a little bit like the old northern stories of Vikings.
Right.
With their colorful pantaloons and big furry coats and their weird helmets. And they're holding like what for them look like comically oversized swords that are almost as big as they are. And like some of them like have the oversized swords that they're barely gripping with two hands, and they have like shields strapped to both arms that they look like they would have no idea how to defend themselves with. So there's a bunch of them sort of coming out towards you.
So
and on the far side of this village there's something that the flies are attracted to.
the people in the village, so they're reacting to us, right?
Yeah, some of them have come out of their little house, their little dome-shaped houses that are pointing up at you. And it looks like sort of a picture of a Viking village.
Okay.
Do they seem to be approaching aggressively or curiously?
They seem defensive.
Right.
They're about to give you a good talking to and send you on your way.
Do they have any like ranged weapons?
Not that you can see right now, but they might be hiding people who have those.
Right. Okay. What the hell? I'm going to try to talk to them.
Who among you is least interested in what Jonita is about to do?
I'm quite interested, actually. Little men with enormous swords. It reminds me of a family reunion. You know, when the children come to get weird ideas.
Yeah, Calpurnia is kind of on high alert as well. She's paying attention.
All right. Yonarla, what are you thinking? I'll give you a second to get off mute. Did we make sure we didn't lose you? Jen, you there? All right. So it's Jack who sees it. In the middle of the village is what looks like a big black obelisk. And it sort of catches your eye because it's got weird carvings all over it. And you realize, maybe, Jack, that it's only big because it's in the middle of a little miniature village. But it's about 1.5 feet long and seems to be carved from maybe a black stone or maybe a black wood or maybe something like obsidian that's sort of like a little bit. But it's got weird etchings in it that are filled with silver. Looks valuable there, Jack. But everybody else seems to be looking at Jonita as she begins to talk to these small people. Jonita, what are you saying? And Jen, I just want to double check to make sure you're there, to make sure we haven't lost you. So, Jonita, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jen.
We come in peace.
Well, you can leave in peace, or you can leave in pieces. We're getting taller by the minute down here. By the hour.
My God, it is like a family reunion.
Jack, during all this, is starting to sneak around as he figures he could probably carry that obelisk.
It is sort of in the middle of the village. You're going to have to at some point make a dash for it.
Yeah.
But there is a spot in the village that's a little narrower.
I think the moment for the dash has not come yet. I think I want to see where the dialogue is a little while longer.
Okay.
But that's where he's headed.
Jack, go ahead and make a dexterity roll, just so if you can see if you can just be nonchalant about moving in that direction.
No, he can be quite chalant.
Jack the chalanted. Jack was never the quiet one.
That's true.
Should have sent John.
Jonita, what are you? He's like, we're getting taller by the minute, hour, something like that here. We'll be big enough to take care of ourselves soon. And then we'll come storming out of here.
Well, we have no intention of staying around for hours and hours while you get tall. So I would suggest that you let us pass, and we will do our best not to step on any of you.
Well, you can just go around that way. And he points to a little sort of like snowy pathway around the edge of the chamber, leading to where all the flies are. But I think at that point, Jack knocks over one of the little sort of dome houses. There's two awkward teenagers inside those houses who look up like you caught them making out, but you definitely did not see them making out.
I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything.
Yeah, the house just sort of falls over to the side.
Try to catch it.
At that point, all of you look up and you see the obelisk in the middle. Yonarla and I would say it's like 2 feet long. It's the houses are about 1.5 feet high. The people are all about 6 inches high. Yonarla and Victoria, you recognize that obelisk, and it's going to take you a second to realize why. Jonita, hey, you're assaulting our village, knocking over houses, sending giants in to storm the place.
Giants.
It was like that when I got here.
Well,
Awkward makeout
Dad,
session,
just-
weapons, and a house falling down. It is a
Just
family.
put it back.
Are you sure you people aren't Burnabys?
Victoria, Yonarla, you're pretty sure that obelisk is the null rod.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rather, of course.
does there look like a big important looking building somewhere?
Actually, no. These are all pretty uniform little buildings.
Okay.
The only thing
You know what?
seems to be a clearing where they've put the obelisk.
Hmm.
Okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna grab that obelisk and firebomb the city, the little town, and then we can go.
I don't think
Yonarla,
they're much of a threat. I think we could pretty much just grab it and leave.
Well, it's nice to be safe and
No, definitely the
whatever.
firebombing would make me feel like I'm at home again. So.
Yonarla, are you lunging forward to go ahead and grab that obelisk?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab the obelisk.
All right. Make a dexterity check, or make a dexterity saving throw.
4.
4? Nice. As you lunge over these guys, you do take 8 hit points of damage, but you're able to keep your head down and your knees high stepping so that the ones swinging at your feet barely nick you, and the ones shooting arrows overhead largely miss you. And that's when you see the archers, Jonita, kind of coming out from their houses.
Yeah.
Up at Yonarla. You've got the rod in your hand, and they're like, no, that's going to end the curse that's been on us. We will find you.
Right.
What curse?
They are not looking in the mood for talking, Jonita. So you could try to calm them down. But right now they're all sort of looking at Yonarla, who's standing in the middle of their miniaturized village with the rod. And they are yelling at her, firing arrows and swinging at her. Are you guys about to just run?
That's probably the smartest move. I was thinking about maybe, trying to do something about the curse, but if they're going to shoot arrows at us, they can just continue to be cursed. Let's run.
They'll be cursed and on fire.
If we stuck around here for another day, they might be as big as us.
Well, then it would be a fair fight. I'm a Burnaby. I don't believe in those.
Fair fights are not what we came here for.
Firebombing, a magic artifact stolen. Good times.
On your way out of the cavern, are you coming back? Are you lunging back out the way you came in, or are you going forward, Yonarla?
I think going towards the opium den.
So you're not quite sure where that is, but you know that doesn't seem to be much back the way you came in, except for Honora dregs. There is an exit to the far end of this cavern.
Well, Honora Dregs was going in a different direction than we wanted to go anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah, we can go back the way we came.
Okay. Now you did go the only other, I would say you went the only other direction, and that seemed to be the Oracle's Cave with the water flowing at the bottom of it. And Honora seemed to be going the other direction. Which way would you like to go? If you're going back that way, or do you want to go forward?
Calpurnia, what do you smell up ahead?
Good question.
Water, Calpurnia.
Yeah, there's water. Like I think Calpurnia thinks that we need to keep on moving forward because
Calpurnia, are you going to lunge forward?
Yeah, I think just tearing through, kicking small people left and right as
they burn.
She heads toward the flies, toward the water, toward freedom.
All right. Calpurnia, you're lunging forward. Make a dexterity saving throw.
Okay. There's a success.
All
That's
right.
A 5.
You only take 7 hit points of damage or hit protection points. Anything that goes over your total hit points comes out of your strength score.
Okay. Still have one left.
Jonita and Victoria, are you following the kids and Yonarla?
Perhaps we shouldn't be so foolish about this. Shall we maybe clear a way through?
That seems like an excellent
Yonarla, can you lay down some covering fire for us? That's a love.
Do we have anything that we could use as a shield?
I could.
Oh, we could also go around.
Throw down. All right. And that's.
You're in the middle of the. Yeah, you're in the middle of the village, Yonarla. So you don't get to go around, but you could certainly dodge out, or you could try to do some covering fire to get yourself out.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just lay waste to the town with my machine gun.
Roll the damage twice.
13.
And now are you sort of lunging forward?
Yeah.
All right. Make a dexterity saving throw one more time. As you go to get out of the cavern.
9.
You take 1 point of damage as you get out of the cavern. It was the much depleted resources of the town, having been largely toppled on top of by houses falling over as you blasted them away. And then Victoria and Jonita both make a dexterity saving throw, please.
Sure thing.
That's the success.
9. So that's a success.
Nice. 1 second. Jonita, you also take 1 point. Victoria, someone, I think, hits the clothes you're wearing and does a nasty rip through the clothes without really doing much more than grazing the skin underneath it. You take 2 points of damage.
Well, that puts me precisely at 0.
And so you will actually, fun fact, when you get to precisely 0, your maximum goes up by 1d6. You've not healed that much yet, but your maximum does go up by 1d6. And any additional damage you took would come out of strength.
Wow. Well, that turns out to be an extra 6 points, so that's fantastic. But first, I need to heal.
All of you are able to, you've not taken any strength damage yet, luckily, Victoria. So you're still going. Calpurnia, you get to kind of a stairway bridge going up to a ledge on the other side of the village. And about that point, you realize you are on the section of the map that's sort of in your sort of very representational view, takes you back to where you're just seeing the bodies of things that Captain Bunnan had killed on his way in. By the way, the body which Victoria recognized, that the flies were sort of hovering over, was Lord Ishwar Bell, or Bell.
I liked him.
Well,
They were a cute couple,
they were adorable.
I mean,
I am going to just Yonarla, you wanted to run out and see if you could get to the opium den, correct?
Yeah.
Straight from the pit directly into the opium den. What about the rest of you? Are you running up through the opium den / CD bookstore, or back through the abandoned butcher shop?
oh, I know those people. I'm going up to the opium den.
I think the arrangement from the outset was that when we finish this, we all get some opium.
Yeah. Including and especially the children.
It's a hard knock life.
For us.
No dogs.
Jonita, what about you?
Whatever's closest. I want out of this place.
It is a long and trying climb up to the opium den. You begin to understand why Captain Bunnan may have gone through the process of just kind of peeling, unfreezing the door at the butcher shop. But you all are able eventually to get up through the trap door into the bookstore cellar, where the opium den, the makeshift underground opium den, is functional. Victoria, the current fashion in opiums produces what intoxicating, especially euphoric and intoxicating effect?
Oh, past life regression.
Lovely. And Yonarla, opium has not long been has long since been legalized in Bastion. Why do illegal parlors such as this one continue to thrive?
There's a really great mockery band that plays just lovely music, and that's part of the appeal. Really, is the atmosphere, in addition to the drugs and not bad food either.
Have you been to this one before?
Oh, of course, clearly.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Jonita, how do you tell the difference between opiums that do long time past life regressions and opiums that do shorter past life regressions?
It's difficult and it takes some experience, but the color of the smoke will give you the darker the smoke, the longer term the past life regressions.
Nice. Jack, John, Jonathan, have you guys ever been able to afford opium before?
I mean, like when our parents weren't in debtor's prison, sometimes if it was hard to get us to sleep, we might get a little bit of opium.
Yeah, just like a little dissolved in some wine.
Yeah, just like rubbed on the gums.
Right.
But this is the first time that like we've been able to get our own, and it's
Right.
special. It reminds us of home.
What about having been to this opium den before did Valo always brag about that seemed improbable?
Oh, sorry, that was another question for me.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think that to them, even the idea of it being something to smoke, like the idea of just setting things on fire and breathing them in, just sounds silly. Like it's not particularly exceptional, but it just seemed like such an impractical thing to do with opium. So they're just like walking through this haze of smoke, and it seems like magic.
Nice. All right. Calpurnia, what do you accomplish while everybody else is getting high?
Just because it's the last session of the game, I think that she might go and fence the rod.
Oh. Okay.
And they never see her again.
Ooh. Oh. The dog that ditches you. That's kind of a heartbreak. That's the ultimate heartbreak. You turn to drugs and your dog ditches you.
Wow.
It's like a country western song.
Smartest member of the gang.
By far.
Yeah.
Do we at least evenly divide the 37 among the three of us now?
It was 37 pounds apiece.
Yeah, it was 37 pounds each.
Oh.
Nice.
Yonarla, this has been a moderately successful expedition, despite having a dog steal everything from you. What do you dream about as the opium overtakes you, and what do you see when you what reality do you see when you wake up?
What reality do I see?
Yeah, what do you dream about, and what cold, hard reality of going back to life in Bastion do you notice as you wake up, or do you think about as you wake up?
I think as I'm like, my dreams are mostly everyone fawning over me and telling me how great I am at everything, and no one causing me any trouble, and I don't even need to lift a finger to pull the trigger. And then I wake up and I have a dog to hunt.
And you know what else, Yonarla? You realize that the band that normally plays here is not playing. Instead, it's this mockery one-person band that seems to be made up of lots of mockeries pushed together as if they'd been set on fire and sort of melded together just of their own. And at the center of that band is the vocalist, Lizzer, your ex-girlfriend.
Hey, Lizzer. Hi.
She waves at you and turns to wink at the abyssal woman she's been dating from the pit of the sea since she last saw you. Jonita, what do you dream about as you surrender to the opiate euphoria, and then see when you wake up? What contrast do you remember or think about as you wake up?
I'm above ground and there's bright sunlight everywhere. And it's like warm and there's no one shooting arrows at me. And I wake up and realize that even though this was a successful, expedition, 37 pounds will not cover the cost of a large destroyed building. And I am definitely going to have to do this again.
And I think you realize that the person who was about to get stoned next to you until they see you is the attorney for the Crafters Cooperative who was going to move into that building.
Yeah.
And is just kind of staring you down.
Yeah.
Jack, Jonathan, John, what are you thinking about as the euphoria overtakes you? And what cold reality do you wake up to?
They think as they have the euphoria of the opiates overcome them, how things are finally turning around, that they have good friends and a loyal dog and and everything's going to be all right. And they wake up to see that it really probably isn't. That this whole slog of life is going to just continue apace.
They also wake up, and which one of them keeps the money?
It's a satchel on the dog. They don't keep the money.
So yeah, they wake up and realize that the dog is not back. Yeah. And the musket's gone.
At least they have their pocket knives and their rocks, and they still have a penny.
And they have each other.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the importance of having each other. It's a mistake only a Burnaby would make. Victoria.
Well,
as the euphoria overtakes you, what are you dreaming about?
Oh, well, of course I got through past life regression, which is this endless technicolor nightmare of violence that is my ancestry, and horrible, horrible ways to find one's own demise, and the demise of usually, generally, 60% of one's companions. It varies sometimes. Sometimes it's 70, sometimes it's 50. It's usually around 60. So you're going to ask me what horrible reality I wake up to?
Well, first I want to know is as you go to the past lives of your ancestors, do you dream of the actual invasion of the Temple of the Lizard People, or where the Burnaby companions became legendary for their casualty rate, or do you wake up to the terrible opera that it's based on? Or no, so that's based on it.
I think I dream of that moment of my beloved ancestor, Frederick Augustus III, the one who restored the family's fortunes. But the horrible reality I wake up to is I'm sitting in some dive bar. My sword is out. It's covered in blood. There's like 3 or 4 dead people around me. I look around and go, oh, Christ, I really am a Burnaby, aren't I?
Well done. Thank you, guys. It has been a phenomenal run of Into the Odd. And I know we'll see some of you in the Black Hack next month. I would like to just take a few minutes. I don't want to necessarily do a break. But I do want to take a few minutes just to check in with you guys on Roses and Thorns. And I'm going to stop the broadcast so that we can